Right, ladies and gents, students, I am here with a special guest today. This is Miss Omosanya, and we are going to learn about her career, her passion, and helping people in the world. I was super excited, Miss Omosanya, when you agreed to do this. So thank you so much for your time today and joining us. We're eager to hear about your line of work and what that means to you and what that looks like on the daily.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, our pleasure. So if you wouldn't mind, could you go into a little bit about what is your specific career and job? And then from there, maybe we could get into a little bit of what does that look like on the daily in that?
Okay, so I'll start with currently.
Yes.
I am a life coach, so I help people get from where they are to where they want to be. Okay, now I do have a job, which is actually new. I got this job during the time of the pandemic. Okay. And so the title at the job is called a behavior coach. So I've worked with a therapist, like psychotherapist. We are partners and we work with different clients. And the company is called Able To. So you're able to improve your lives. So we work with people who have maybe anxiety and depression, heart issues, chronic pain. We work with lots of different diagnoses. But what we do is when we first start off, we find out what are your goals for yourself. Okay. And that's what a coach does. What are your goals? And where are you now? What's not working? And how can we get you to where you want to go? So the therapist works with them with their more emotional health, because I think everybody could use a therapist, especially during these times with people being locked down. So having someone to talk to and kind of help with the way they're dealing with their emotions and processing it. And then me as the coach, I help solidify whatever the therapist goes over with them. And so I do different exercises with them, like breathing exercises, mindfulness exercises, and just I listen as well. And so I'll give you an example. I've had people who had maybe social anxiety. I had one client, and I have men and women. The youngest 28, oldest 85. No, 86. So so I remember one guy that really stood out. He had a really bad anxiety. And so I like to bring I don't just, because we have a script when we work it with people, and I like to bring me to the job. And so he said, work was really good last week. I did good as far as performance wise. And I said, well, what if you didn't do good? Then what? Oh, that would be horrible. And it was like, well, why? And then that's when I discovered that he doesn't like to be judged or criticized. And so then that's when we discovered that, well, I discovered that he has social anxiety, because when he first signed up, he just signed up saying that he had anxiety and depression. So I helped to uncover that he has social anxiety. And so we worked with that. And with social anxiety, which is funny because I had that growing up. So I was super excited. People who have social anxiety have a fear of being judged, criticized. They don't like to be watched. And they're constantly looking for approval outside of themselves. So I helped work with him with building up his self-esteem. And so we worked with people for 8 weeks. By the end of the 8 weeks, he was like, I'm kind of worried because I really don't care about what people think anymore. I hope I'm not going to turn out to be a jerk or something. I said, no, this is great. So that's just one of the different cases. I work with people with chronic pain, and it's just getting them to where they are. If their pain is an 8, and just doing the different exercises. And you'll be surprised that most problems have it stems in the mind, something going on in here. So people who have chronic pain, a lot of times they have emotional pain. So it's working with people, using the different exercises, the tools, and just being a safe space for them to be able to improve. So it's getting them from where they are to where they want to be. That's pretty much what a life coach does.
Wow, that's incredible. And I appreciate you giving like an example. I think that paints a great picture for the students. So when you're working, are you working closely also with the psychotherapist for this? Would they be considered a patient? Is that the proper term?
We call them participants.
Participants, forgive me.
Participant,
So
yeah.
for your participants in that, do you collaborate with the psychotherapist so that you're saying, hey, I'm seeing this. Is this something we can look into? And you basically form a team to help this person out?
Yeah, we work as a team. So they see the person one day in the week, and then I see them the other day. And then we have notes, and we look at each other's notes, and sometimes we have meetings to kind of discuss the case. But yeah, we work together, and it really is very pleasurable to be able to contribute like that, to be able to help people to improve. And I have such a good rapport with everybody. Like my daughters were, they came in the other day because I work from home. And they're like, that didn't sound like you were talking to a client. You're having so much fun, And I have people laughing, and they just are able to just talk about whatever they have going on in their lives, and to be able to help them and to make them smile, especially during this period, is such a blessing. So I'm so grateful for that. Yeah.
Well, this is wonderful. I have many students I know that often say they're interested in the avenue of psychology and all that. And this seems like something that I have a feeling a lot of students don't even realize exists, a way that you can help people in a slightly different way. Like you said, you can bring your personality and your energy into it. So that's
Right.
really great that you mentioned that. I appreciate that. If a student is interested getting involved in work like this, is there a specific set pathway that leads them here? Or is that something that different avenues can get into this field? Just curious how, maybe it would be best to say how you ended up in this area. And
That's a good question. All right. So where do I begin? So like I said, when I was younger, I had social anxiety, very low self-esteem, low self-worth. And it was just, I was in so much pain that I just went on a journey of self-development. So I started reading books and listening to audios and things like that. And that's where it first developed, like my love for just the way the mind works and the way the brain works. So kind of healing myself. Then I started just working with other people. So there was no like straight line to it. Like I have my degree in what is called occupational therapy.
Okay.
I never loved it.
Okay.
I fell into it.
Yeah.
When I was in high school, I was working in a counselor's office, and she said, well, what do you want to be when you grow up? I said, I don't know, maybe I'm going to major in sociology or psychology. And she's like, well, what are you going to do with that? I was like, I don't know. I just want to work with people. I want to help people. She said, well, there's no money in that. Oh, okay. I'm young. I'm like 17. Okay. She's like, yeah, go. She started telling me about physical therapy. She's like, go for physical therapy. And I was like, okay. So I got to my college. They didn't have physical therapy anymore. They had occupational therapy. Now, I'm glad that I went for occupational therapy over physical therapy, because occupational therapy did have a portion where we were able to work on learning about psych. So we had like a whole semester on psych, and I got A's on every single assignment. But by the time I got out of school, occupational therapists had moved away from doing psych and was more doing physical stuff. So I actually ended up working in settings side by side with physical therapists. And they would be walking with the patients, and I would be doing arm exercises with the patients. And I'm just like, I don't like this. The only thing that I liked is I got a chance to work with people.
Yeah.
And talk to people. That was the positives. But I remember trying every single setting in that field, because the good thing about occupational therapy is you can work in schools, You could work in like a nursing home, assisted living facilities. So I tried like every different setting. And I was like, no, not it, not it, not it, not it.
Okay.
And then I found out about this technique called emotional freedom technique. And that's what I was trained in. And that right there, that technique just blew my world wide open. I like fell in love with this technique. It's like a mind body technique. You tap on different meridian points on the body. It calms down anxiety, helps change limiting beliefs, reduces pain. So I brought it to the occupational therapy field, started doing it with some of the clients, and they were starting to have big shifts and improvements. So I felt better and like, okay, now I can actually do something that I love with them, but it was kind of limiting. So then I decided to like leave the field altogether. And then I started working with people doing this technique called emotional freedom techniques in different like healing centers. I did like a 12-state speaking tour where I like taught it to other professionals. And so that's I kind of ventured out on my own, did like independent contract work and started telling everybody about it. So then everybody wanted a session. And so I kind of paved my own way. And then as far as life coaching, I started doing the emotional freedom technique with people, and then doing a little bit of coaching too. And there was one young lady that I helped her to be able to get a job of her dreams. And it was just like, oh, where did this come from? Okay. And I was like, what am I doing here? She's like, you're a life coach. She just gave me that name. And I'm like, okay. And then I started looking into it. And I'm like, yeah, that's it. So I did get like a certification just online, but nothing major. There's no regulations on life coaching.
Okay.
So started doing life coaching, and then plus with my emotional freedom technique that I was telling you about, putting those together. Because with the thing about life coaching is you work with people with goals, but then our brains don't like change.
It's true.
Doesn't like change, right? You're in science, so you know how the brain works. And so you have to be able to help people get through their blocks. So my technique, emotional freedom technique, and some of the other different like mindfulness stuff can kind of help you get centered and quiet, where you can kind of calm your brain down and then actually keep moving forward, because sometimes it's scary. So yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell. Is basically just paving my own way and getting into this. And then I decided during the pandemic time, where I couldn't really go and see people physically because I was working out in like healing centers and having sessions, I just said, you know what, let me see if I could find a job that's in alignment with my values, because I hadn't had a job in like 7 years. And so I was starting to get a little bored. So I found this job that I work at now, which I work part-time because I do have 3 children. And with the whole hybrid, some kids, and everybody's on different schedules.
Yes.
So I needed something flexible, you know what I mean, that could work for my family and that I could show up and be myself. So yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I think that's wonderful. You learned one thing, but you knew it wasn't fully aligned with your passions, and then you ran into this emotional
freedom technique,
EFT. That's right, EFT, and that totally aligned with your belief system. And from there, you carved out your own career from it. That's outstanding. And I think you've been bringing up a lot, maybe without even specifically saying it, but you seem to really have followed your passions, and from that's allowed you to enjoy your work. Your kids are obviously thinking that there's a rule: you can't have too much fun at work, huh?
Yeah, my husband is like, you're having too much fun, because he's a physical therapist. He's out there, doing physical therapy with people, but I have fun. I'm laughing, I'm changing lives, and that's what it's about.
Oh, that's wonderful. So a day for you, it sounds busy in a lot of different things. Are you meeting with clients and with with the pandemic, is that a lot of virtual things right now versus in person, or what does that kind of look like for you?
Yeah, it's all virtual. Like I had like a women's group that I was leading, and that was all like Zoom meetings. And then I had like a what is it, Telegram app where I would like post on my channel, and then we'd have Zoom meetings. So everything is either Zoom or with my job over the phone, because like some of our elderly people they don't know how to do Zoom.
Right.
So I'm working over the phone, and I make my own schedule because, like I said, for me, I'm naturally more of like a entrepreneur or independent contractor. So to have a job, it had to be in alignment with my values and me, and it had to work. So I choose my own schedule. I can move it around as needed. I work from home. I can take my laptop and go travel out of town or somewhere and still work. And that's what I wanted to be able to do, to be able to work from anywhere. So I think it's important to know what one's values are and build a life around the values. And so to me, it's very painful to see that a lot of people, 80% of Americans hate their jobs. And that breaks my heart.
Yes, it is sad.
And the only difference between a person who does what they're passionate about and lives a life on their terms and a person that doesn't is their mindset. So that's what I learned when I was working my job and miserable. I was listening to CDs, about how to create the life of your dreams, because it's not just going to happen through osmosis.
Right.
I dove into like self-development work, and I understood the way the mind works, and that we are powerful creators, and that we can create a life on our own terms. But you got to have it takes courage. It's not easy. And I'm currently now enrolled in a 12-month mastermind program for people who want to be change makers and thought leaders. So that's what I'm working on as well too. So the thing is to not stop. Like, I love my job, but it's a job. There's still some limitations, and I want more. So I enrolled in invested in this program because what I really want to do is be a self-empowerment coach and to empower people to be their true, authentic selves.
I love it. I love it. You brought up so much besides the passionate, like lifelong learning. You're consistently learning. And I love how you said you kind of carve the life around your passion in that. And I think sometimes we feel that we got to force ourselves into this box of where we belong. But really, you're saying, try to make it build around you. That's wonderful advice. And especially for satisfaction in life too, so that you don't end up that 80%, but that 20% who really does enjoy what they do every day.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, Ms. Omosanya, this has been wonderful. I love the energy, by the way. I'm a huge geek when it comes to self-improvement books as well. So I'm going to have to email you and listen to any books you suggest, because I love all that kind of stuff. But is there anything before we head out, Annette, you wanted to leave with, any tips or strategies? You've already done so many with passion and carving your life, but is there anything else you wanted to mention or say?
Yeah, I think I would just say, I know in this generation, maybe sitting down reading books isn't ideal. So there are other ways, like following people on Instagram or going on YouTube, but whatever it is that one desires, to find someone who's doing it and start following them, because it has been done. And some things don't necessarily require college, it doesn't. Like for what I did, honestly, with life coaching, it's not not necessarily a requirement. It could be, just continuing education stuff. Just, that's what I did. So I would just say, that everyone is encoded when they come here with what they're supposed to do. Now, a lot of times it's covered by society's rules. And that's why so many people are in the jobs that they hate. So I would say to start paying attention to what are you passionate about? What lights you up? What could you get lost in doing? And there's no time zone on it. Like I'm in my 40s and I'm just stepping fully into my full self. So it could take time, but as long as you're breathing, don't ever give up. Start looking at what am I interested in? And at this age, as high school students, you may not know. You may not know yet.
Right.
That's okay. But start paying attention to the clues. And when it does come, say yes to it. And do the mindset work. That's what's important.
Thank you. What wonderful advice. I love it. We got to end on that because that was like a high note. That was like the pinnacle for sure. So on behalf of myself and my students, I just want to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. And thank you for all the great work you're doing and the positive energy and the help you're putting into the world, especially during these times that are extra stressful for a lot of people. So thank you so much, though, for the time.
You're welcome. My pleasure.